So, hello, my name is Charlene Amini, and I am the creator and founder of the American Bolivian Collective. I am a second generation American Bolivian. My mother is from River Alta, Beni, Bolivia, and I actually grew up in a small beach town in North Carolina. And I remember the first time that I visited Bolivia, I was 9 years old. Our family would go every Christmas for a couple of months, and we would usually rent out a house in Zona Sur. And I just remember the first time, the landscape is so different. I remember the bowl, I remember Ilimani, so iconic. But I think the biggest culture shock to me was when I was a teenager. I asked my mom, well, I want to visit my family in the Amazon because they had always come to La Paz to visit us, and they were from Kobe and River Alta. And I remember not knowing much because my mother never, I think she was kind of shamed talking about it. In North Carolina, they would say like, oh, you're not really from the Amazon, like you don't have the jaguars. And she's like, yeah. And they're like, I don't know, people, it didn't connect, I think. But I remember going there, and then the earth was red and the trees, it got really tropical, and I was like, okay. And then when I landed, I remember, they let you off, and there's just a house and there's a band, and everybody's looking to see who's coming off the plane. And I was alone, and I saw my aunt, and then they made me get on a motorcycle, and I was like, this is crazy. Everybody's riding motorcycles. It was so different from like anything that I'd ever seen. And I remember we pulled up to the house, and it was clay floor, thatch roof, and you have to pull, there's no running water. You have to pull it from the well. And I remember calling my mom and being like, Mom, there's only like one light bulb that lights the whole house. And she's like, so they finally got electricity. And that's when I knew. I was like, that's crazy. Like, my mom actually comes from like, I don't know, just that juxtaposition. I had culture shock from that, actually. So I actually celebrate Dia de los Muertos. So in the Amazon of Bolivia, the cemeteries are very unique. They're very eclectic. They're personal to each individual. And for Dia de los Muertos, you usually do a mass, you have a lunch, and you set out pictures and things that they would like to eat or drink. And at nighttime, when you go to the cemetery, there's a banda that you can actually take in. You pay them, and they serenade the graves while you guys drink. And it's kind of like a party in the cemetery. But in the US, I still have, every year I do my pictures, I do my prayers, and I make their food and drink for my ancestors and kind of like talk about them with my siblings and things. So this is how we remember them. I'm going to tell you about my mom, actually, because I believe the American dream was always just about the opportunity to pursue, like to have a better life, or that you were more in charge of your fate or destiny, like more chances. And with my mother, because I knew at the time, like how she came from the Amazon is kind of wild to me, because nobody else in my family made it out of the Amazon. They're still all there. And for her, when she got to the Southeast United States, she created the first bilingual magazine. She created the first Spanish language radio station. She also had her own scholarship pageant. So she inspired me a lot, watching her take on her version of the American dream. I actually, created a scholarship in her name because she passed away 2 years ago. And that's kind of how the American Bolivian Collective, she actually really encouraged me to do that, to build a community. Talking about what I miss the most about Bolivia and how we stay connected. So probably what I miss most about Bolivia is my family. I think I missed out on a lot. And I do remember when it was all like the scratching calling cards. And now we communicate through WhatsApp. So we share videos and we talk and we share, photos. And I ask them a lot of questions, and they tell me a lot of stories. So for me, I found that sharing things I like about Bolivia with people who are not related to Bolivia, because that's kind of how I grew up. It helped me just sharing with people like music, what it's like they're cooking something, because my grandma actually lived with us for 5 years and she taught me how to cook Bolivian food. So being able to share those with people who are curious, because ever since I was little, people would ask me like, what are you? Like, what's going on? And I would say, oh, well, my mom's actually Bolivian. And they're like, people were more curious, I think, to know. So at a young age, I learned that I realized that I was the one who had to learn and answer the questions. I think that's a great way to preserve Bolivian culture, is to learn about it, to learn about your history, and to share it. And if you're lucky enough to find a community of Bolivians, which is why I started the American Bolivian Collective. In Washington, D.C., actually, I got married about 10 months ago. Also half Bolivian. Actually, currently I'm in Colorado because he's performing at Red Rocks tomorrow, which is kind of funny. But so now we moved to Washington, D.C., but I travel around a lot for my husband's job. And it's so funny because I will say, you know, through my community, I'll be like, oh, I'm in Colorado. And people are like, I'm here, I'm here. And the Bolivians will actually come out to his show. And let's see, it was maybe a couple nights ago, they came with things from Bolivia. Like they always share with me. So because I have the ABC, I'm able to meet Bolivians all over the US, Canada, London. Always I'm meeting Bolivians wherever I go. So it's pretty funny. The Virginia area, very specifically, I've been asked to talk, and it's very interesting to see it because I remember growing up in NC, sometimes we would travel to go because they have like the Committee Pro Bolivia, they would do the parade. And we would get to see, I remember Zulma Yugar, we saw her one time. Because sometimes they'll bring them, but it was always that DC, Virginia area. Like I knew it existed, but when I was living in LA for the past 10 years, and I was like, where is everybody? Like, what's going on? And I remember having like kind of like imposter syndrome, maybe. A lot of second generation have it, where like, am I Bolivian enough? Like I can't claim it because, you know, I'm not really there. And then am I romanticizing it? You know, there's a lot of like thought. And I remember telling my mom all these feelings. I want to find Bolivian friends, people that, because Bolivian culture is very rich. There's like, you know, over 40 national dances. There's 36 like different pueblos. It's crazy. It's like just so much. It's information culturally. It's very unique. And if you're Bolivian, you'll know, right? Like the food, like you'll know it. So I was like, where is everybody else that is similar, that knows these things? And then I was like, but I feel bad. I can't be like, oh, I'm so Bolivian. And my mom was like, you know, I raised you. You have my blood. Don't feel like that. Just do it. And you'll see. Just spotlight people and highlight. And if you create it, they're going to come to you. And it works. Yeah, it happened. So this is kind of funny. I actually retain like 100% control of the American Bolivian Collective. I literally I'll be on Google or Instagram, TikTok, and I will type in searching for like Bolivian Americans, American Bolivian, who's here, something Bolivian, but I do it by myself. And usually I have like forms, I'll reach out to, you know, women or girls, and I'm like, hey, you're doing something really cool, and I noticed that you were Bolivian. Do you want to be part of the collective? I send them a form, and I plug in all the information on the website. I make the, you know, the stuff for Instagram. I make the videos. So yeah, it's all me. I don't have anybody else. I mean, I think outside of Bolivia, because that's kind of what I focus on, is the diaspora, we kind of get reduced to this like collective Latinidad, like especially in the US or everywhere. And I think it's important to kind of, you know, we're all very similar, but we're not the same. To just distinguish, we would like that. And I feel Bolivians are very proud to be Bolivian. And I think that's important to do a little distinguish, like, yes, we are similar, but we're different too. And to notice those things, that's kind of what I feel why I do the American Bolivian Collective, to promote that and to share and to be like, oh, look at this, like this is, you know, something different. Maybe you don't know. But yeah, general, I find that people are very receptive and people really like it.